Before Christ was crucified, before Muhammad received revelation, before Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, there was a man in Athens who knew nothing, or so he claimed. Socrates, a man who wandered the streets barefoot, poor, and endlessly curious. He asked questions that made kings tremble, priests stammer, and even gods feel a little nervous. What did he believe about God? What did he say about the soul, the afterlife, and the divine structure of the cosmos? And why did the city of Athens, birthplace of Democrates, sentence him to death for corrupting the youth? This is the spiritual journey of Socrates, the man who challenged the gods. Socrates was born around 470 BCE in Athens, Greece. Unlike the elite philosophers of today, he wasn't rich. He never wrote down his thoughts, never taught in a formal school, and looked more like a wandering mystic than a scholar. He served as a soldier, was known to be fearless in battle, but his true battles were with ideas, especially about truth, virtue, and divinity. Most of what we know comes from his student Plato and the playwright Aristophanes. But while others wrote books, Socrates turned his life into a living dialogue. He believed that wisdom didn't come from possessing knowledge but from realizing how little we actually know. "I know that I know nothing," he said. But it wasn't just humility, it was a challenge to the arrogant gods of certainty. Socrates often spoke of a mysterious voice within him, which he called the daimonion, a divine spiritual guide. This inner voice never told him what to do. Instead, it warned him when he was about to make a mistake. Was this God, a guardian angel, a psychological impulse? No one knows. But for Socrates, this voice was sacred. He obeyed it even when it led to danger, including his death sentence. He believed that every human being has access to this divine voice if they live with integrity and pursue truth. In an age of temple sacrifices and gods on Mount Olympus, this was revolutionary, a personal, internal connection to the divine, without priests, rituals, or dogma. Socrates was no atheist, but he was no religious conformist either. He openly questioned the stories of the Greek pantheon, the jealousies of Zeus, the cruelty of Hera, the absurdities of mythology. He believed in a higher moral order, not a chaotic bunch of bickering gods, but a divine intelligence guiding the universe. He criticized blind religious rituals and the hypocrisy of priests. He believed that true piety wasn't about offerings to gods, but about living a virtuous life. To Socrates, religion was not belief, it was inquiry, a sacred investigation into the nature of justice, goodness, and the soul. Socrates didn't focus much on the mechanics of the cosmos like later thinkers. He believed such speculation distracted people from the real work, improving their soul. But when he did speak about the cosmos, he saw it as an ordered, intelligent system, not random, not chaotic. He believed in a kind of divine teleology that everything in nature has a purpose, and that understanding our place in the world begins with understanding the self. The microcosm of the soul mirrored the macrocosm of the universe. To purify the soul was to attune with cosmic truth. Socrates famously said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." But when it came to death, he embraced it with almost divine serenity. At his trial, he told the court, "To fear death is to think we know what we do not know." He believed the soul was immortal, and that death was either a peaceful nothingness or a journey to a higher realm of truth. His last words, "Crito, we owe a rooster to Asclepius," was the god of healing. Some believe Socrates was thanking the gods for curing him, not of illness, but of life itself. He welcomed death, not as an end, but as a possible beginning. In 399 BCE, Socrates was put on trial. The charges, impiety, not believing in the state gods, and corrupting the youth of Athens. His defense wasn't meek. He challenged the jury, questioned their morality, and stood by his mission to awaken people from their dogmatic sleep. He was sentenced to death, given a chance to escape. He refused, because to flee would betray everything he had taught. And so, surrounded by students, he drank the poison hemlock. His death was not the end, but the beginning of Western philosophy. His student Plato would carry forward his legacy, creating a philosophical lineage that would include Aristotle, Aquinas, Descartes, Kant, Nietzsche, and beyond. Socrates was not a preacher. He was not a prophet. He was a seeker. He didn't claim to know God. He claimed to seek God through reason, dialogue, and moral courage. And in a world filled with noise, rituals, and blind beliefs, that might be the most spiritual act of all. This was one chapter in our ongoing series exploring the minds of history's greatest philosophers, their lives, their beliefs, and their questions about God, religion, and the universe. If this sparked your curiosity, don't forget, this is just the beginning. We're continuing this journey, one philosopher at a time. So stay tuned for upcoming videos in this series, because the quest for truth never ends.